is Sophie Lawson from sophielawson.com, and this is episode 20 of the So Free Art podcast, which is a little podcast I do each week about art and things. And this one's going to be a bit of a... this one's going to be a bit all over the place, I think, because that's what the last week has been like. In fact, that's what the last few weeks have been like. Ever since that Reiki Healing, which I did a few weeks ago, which I still haven't really spoke about on the podcast, but ever since that Reiki Healing, it's almost like everything's got turned upside down, and it's almost as if everything got turned upside down, and like a salt and pepper pot, everything was sort of shook out of my head, and it's now on the bed or on the floor or something, and I've got to sort of piece it all back together. And maybe it's a good thing, but the last few weeks have been, the last week especially, has been not very nice, really, I suppose. So like this one could be all about balance, focus, motivation, life issues, healing, the mind, the body, passions. It's basically all of that put together into this episode. So this is episode 20, and I'm quite amazed really that I managed to get this far. And I wanted to thank everybody who's been nice enough to send me messages. It's been really nice, and I really enjoy doing this podcast, even though it's quite hard because like a lot of the podcasts, they're only say 20 minutes long, but they actually take quite a few hours to put together sometimes, especially when I get a bit like perfectionist about my voice or something. Sometimes I'll end up re-recording a podcast multiple times because I get a bit paranoid and stuff about my voice. So like I'm hoping that in time I can get a bit better at just accepting my voice and stuff, but that all sort of plays into what I'm going through at the moment. So if there's any show notes or anything, you'll be able to find them at sofreeart.com, and my YouTube is youtube.com/Sophie Lawson, and I suppose I should start there really, because I've been for the last few weeks looking back at my older drawings and just talking about them, and I realised that they were all based on video game characters, and it made me realise that I haven't been playing video games for a few years now. Well, I went through a phase of playing video games at the end of last year, and a couple of months ago I got rid of my PS4 and all my games and stuff, and I think this is where it sort of goes in with balance, where I got rid of that all because I wanted to focus on my art and stuff. But I think I'm starting to realise that these things that I sort of look at as being bad, like video games, I don't think they're actually bad. I think they're only bad if like I become obsessed with them or something. But I think getting rid of them completely is probably proven not to be the right thing to do. So like looking at all my older drawings, it just made me realise that the reason I started drawing in the first place was because I love I love video games so much that I actually wanted to capture the characters in drawings, and my goal, my dream right at the start was always to create my own characters and like my own sort of video game inspired characters and stuff like that. And as I was starting to learn drawing, I just ended up falling into like a traditional drawing and realistic drawing. It just happened naturally, and then the more I got into that realistic drawing, the less I was able to do video game characters because they are very stylized, and a lot of the video games that I like are anime inspired, so they're very like cell shaded, which is a type of visual style which means there's very little shading. So if you're trying to practice realistic drawing, you can't really do that with video game characters unless you're really good at drawing and you know the secrets, so then you can sort of start making things up. But I've never got to that place yet where I'm able to start making things up in a realistic style, because I don't know for me there's two types bits of drawing. There's learning how to do something realistically, which is all sort of learning the skills, but then there's this other side which is learning how to draw things from your head, which is a completely different skill set. So like my dream was always, for instance, to take a video game character and using an image of the video game character as a reference, put that into my own pose. So I would like capture a pose either in a photo or something, and so I would have a pose, I would have the character, and then I would like to turn that character into the pose. And I sort of started doing that with my character Lil Sophie, but I would like to do it with video game characters. So for instance, let's just say you could take, say, Lara Croft and draw Lara Croft but in your own sort of pose, and just make your own art like that. So that's always been the dream, but I've never known where to go with that. And because I went down this realistic route, I never really learnt the skills to be able to do that. And so to start doing that, it would be like hitting the reset. You'd have to go right back to basics and learning skills. But that's sort of one thing I've started thinking about is, like, why am I actually drawing? What do I want to do? And I think what I've also noticed is, like, with the website and stuff, I'm spending so much time writing, talking about things, or writing about things, and I'm hardly spending any time actually drawing, which is a bit mad. But the thing is, I love writing about things, and like I love making videos, I love doing this podcast, I love writing in the diary, my transgender transitioning diary. I love writing like inspirational things about models and artists and stuff. I love doing all of that, but everything takes time, and I'm starting to realise that you only have a certain amount of time, not just like every day, but I guess in your life at some point it will run out. And so I'm just starting to think about everything, because I'm starting to think, what do I actually want to be spending my time doing? And the other thing is, I want to be playing video games as well, so I want to try and find this place where I can allow myself to play video games and not feel bad for playing video games. But the other thing with that is, a lot of the video games that I like to play are all Japanese role-playing games and stuff, which take so many hours to do that I just can't see how I would ever be able to play those sort of games again. So that's another thing that's confusing me. So I'd have to sort of change the games I played, but then I wouldn't be playing the games I want to play, because my favourite games are racing games, like Gran Turismo, which you can jump in and out of those games. So those games are quite easy for me to see how I could still play games and draw. But these Japanese RPGs, I don't know how I would be able to do that, so that's something else I'm thinking about. But the thing that really, I guess, confuses stuff is this transitioning. So ever since I brought transitioning into the website and like started going on my little journey of hormones and everything, ever since then I have struggled really badly with focus and finding balance, because I look back at like 2013 when I started drawing. I was doing so much drawing. I was probably doing more drawing in 1 week back in 2013 and the first half of 2014. I was probably doing more drawing in 1 week than I currently do in probably maybe even 2 months. it's quite bad when I look at it like that, but the thing that makes me feel a little bit better is because I spoke about Delia last week on the podcast. I've been talking to her on email still, and she's still inspiring me a lot. And I put a link to her website in the show notes. It's therealdelia.com. But like I look at her, and when she was doing her transition, she took 10 years out of her like passion, which was acting. So she took 10 years out to focus on herself, to get herself into the right place, and then once she was ready, she could then come back to the acting. So I almost start thinking, do I have to do that with my art? Is that going to be... And I start thinking, it's the best thing for me to do at the moment, to just pull back on pretty much everything. I think I would keep the podcast going, because I really like this. I think I would keep the YouTube videos going, but maybe everything else I just need to accept I can't do it at the moment. And maybe, because at the moment I'm going through so much with this transition, such as I've just got to the point where surgery about, I can't remember the exact name, it's GRS, which is something like genital reassignment surgery or something, and it's basically where they chop off the balls, but they don't chop it off, they turn your balls and your willy into a fanny. And I was asked, do I want to do that? And I'd never really allowed myself to think about whether I wanted to do that, but like I say, because I've got all these other things that I'm doing, like the website, my drawing, all this healing, meditation, I've got all this stuff, and swimming as well. So I've got all this stuff going on. I never really allowed myself time to actually stop and think about if I really wanted to have surgery, and I was so confused. And I've also got all these issues coming up, especially after that Reiki healing. But the last few years, during this transition, I've been really going face to face with a lot of issues from my past, like with my childhood, with my mum and dad, and other things like that. So that's all coming up to the surface as well. So I'm trying to deal with all this stuff, and with the surgery I said no at first, which meant I then got discharged from the clinic, which is the gender identity clinic. And then about a week later I had this dream, which was so insane, I can't even remember what happened. I just woke up with a voice in my head saying, any decision is your decision. And I felt so sad, as if I had made a big mistake. So I ended up going back and saying, I do want surgery. So that's now this big confusing mess that I'm trying to deal with. And so that's going to be, the next few years is going to be all about this surgery. And that, again, everything just takes up time, because with the surgery you need to have laser on your testicles to remove the hair, because they need it to be smooth when making the fanny. The fanny, I love that word. So even that is taking up time. I then have laser on my face and electrolysis, which again is only a couple of hours a month, but it all adds up, and it all adds up. So at the moment I'm just feeling a bit overwhelmed with everything that's going on, and it feels a bit like I've hit a point where I realise that something's got to change. And this past week has been really bad, because I've even started thinking about just giving up on everything and just going back to playing video games. Because before I started drawing, my life was basically go to work, come home and just play video games, and that was it. And the thing is, it was a very simple life. So to some extent, I was quite content with that life. The only thing was that I was struggling with my gender and suppressing it. So I sometimes think maybe art came into my life just to allow me to transition and maybe I end up going back to the video games. Like, I would be okay with that, but the thing is, I know that I want to do so much with drawing. So I think it's a bit confusing. I just need to think about everything at the moment. But I definitely want to, I need to start saying no to a lot of things. So I'm thinking about on the website, for instance, I'm going to have to say no to something, and I'm either going to have to say no to art for the moment and focus just on like writing for the transitioning diary, or I focus on the art, like making podcasts, videos and sketching and stuff, and basically say no to updating the transitioning section. So basically I feel like I've got to say no to something so that I can focus, because I want to be able to, I think what I want to do is I want to transition and write about it, but only write about it for myself, and then maybe one day in the future I can type it all up onto the website or something, because writing it all up takes a lot of time, and I don't really enjoy doing that as much as like making videos or something, or doing the podcast or drawing. So I think I have to go to what I enjoy the most. But I do love writing, that's the thing. So, and writing is very good because as you're writing, you sort of get a lot of insights, so it's definitely powerful, and I wouldn't want to lose that, which is why I would probably do the writing just for myself. So that's one thing. But then my mind wants to go to a place where it just cuts that completely. I've always been somebody like all or nothing, which I don't think is healthy. It's good in a way because it allows you to focus when you decide. You can actually focus quite well, but it's negative because it means you have this habit of jumping from one thing to another, and I think balance is all about saying no to something but not cutting it off completely. In other words, I could say I need to say no to, let's just say I say no to updating the transitioning section. But then I start thinking, what does that mean for like the newsletter and everything? Because that's on the newsletter. So I think I just need to sit down. This is why I feel like I need to sit down, take a time out for a week or so, and just think about what I actually want to do. And the other thing is, I don't even want to be like when I first started drawing, I was drawing for no reason other than to draw. But recently I've started drawing and thinking about putting it onto the website and stuff like that. I don't want to do that because I just want to draw for myself, like I was right at the start, and just draw, and like I don't want to have to be sharing everything on the website, if that makes sense. But the thing that's funny is I think if I did go and start just drawing for myself, I would probably share more on the website because I would be a bit more laid back. So it's a bit of a weird one, that. It's a bit confusing. And something else I have noticed recently, because I've been doing these floating sessions in the float tank, which is a sensory deprivation tank. I did my third session last week, and that was actually, this is what's weird, is everything is all going towards the same place. With that Reiki healing, I came away from that with this feeling of, well, for a week I felt really quite confident, but I could feel that something was different inside, and she even said that things might get worse before they get better. And what happened was my voice went quite bad for a couple of weeks, and it started to affect my mind, and I think my mind was starting to affect the voice to make it worse. It's like that thing I've said about before where your mind controls everything. So you sort of, if you get into a negative place, if a negative thought gets into your head, or at least with me I've noticed that it can start sort of create more negative thoughts, and it just gets to a place where it's very hard to break it. So I was able to stop that, but it made me realise that it's still in there, because you sometimes think you've sort of gotten over some of these things, but when something like that happens, you realise that it is still inside of you, the possibility of losing your mind negatively. So that's something else. But with these float sessions, the first one I spoke about on the podcast, and I said about how my mind was just, it wouldn't shut up, to be honest. And it was the first time I really realised how much my mind was talking. So that was quite an eye-opener. The second one, my mind was a lot quieter, but it was still a lot of chatter. But the third one was probably the most uncomfortable hour I've had. I would probably say one of the most uncomfortable hours I've ever had, because my mind was relatively quiet, but what happens in that float tank is, because there's no sight, it's pitch black, there's no sound, it's just you floating in the water, and you get to a place where you're like floating in nothingness, so all your senses disappear. And so what happens is you can feel everything. So what happened in that third session was, the first half an hour it wasn't too bad. I was feeling quite relaxed and nice, but what happened was I moved my arms because I wanted to see what it would feel like if I moved my arms down. And once I'd done that, I became so aware of my body, and it was so tense, it was just so tense. I couldn't believe, I'd never felt, it was the first time, like the first session showed me how much my mind doesn't stop talking. The third session showed me how much my body is really tense. And I started clicking all the bones in my body. Like really, what happened was, at first I was trying to resist this feeling, and then I know that what you're supposed to do, or what a lot of people say, is whatever happens in the float tank, just go with it. So I started thinking, okay, this session is obviously going to be about my body and how I feel about it and stuff. So I started just accepting that I wasn't going to get a peaceful, relaxed one. So I started stretching my body, and because you can hear everything like really intensely in there because it's so silent, I could hear all the bones in my body cracking, and it sounded like everything was like breaking, and like it made me realise how fragile the bones are. So that was even though it was a bit weird, it was quite nice. But for instance, my neck was so tense and uncomfortable that when that session was over, I actually thought to myself, I don't think I'm going to do this anymore. Like, I actually thought, I don't think I want to do this anymore. But then when I started thinking about that, I started thinking this might be quite a good thing, because the floating is showing you that your body is tense. So something has to change with the way you're like living your life, I guess, because your body isn't peaceful and relaxed. And I've also noticed this at swimming, because I've been learning how to swim for the past few months. My swimming instructor I've made quite a lot of progress, but the thing I'm struggling with is, one, getting my body to relax in the water so that I can like float across the surface like swimming. And she started like feeling my body, and she said, "Look, you are so tense," and I didn't realise it. But so this is how everything comes together. It's like the float room and the swimming were both showing me that my body is really tense. And my swimming instructor also said that one of the things that's stopping me at the moment is my mind, which is something I've noticed. Like everything in life seems to be about the mind. If you can get your mind in the right place, I think you can do anything. But it goes the other way, in that if you can't get your mind in the right place, you won't be able to do anything. So that's both a positive and a negative thing. So like swimming is really proving to me a lot of things. It's giving me confidence in one way because I'm overcoming all these fears and stuff, and I'm so, I guess, like fearless under the water now. I can sit under the water and stuff and really enjoy it. The only thing I'm struggling with is coming up for breath. It's trying to get everything in sync, which I guess is a bit like my life. It's trying to get everything in sync. So swimming is really proving, it's really helping me in a lot of areas of my life. But all this to say that everything's shining the lights on, like realising that something's got to change. I guess it's my body is turning around and saying, I'm not happy, like please do something here. So it's really uncomfortable at the moment, but I feel like sometimes when these things happen, it means you're getting close to like a big change. So the past week has been a bit weird because I've started questioning whether I want to continue drawing, whether I want to continue doing a website. I've been questioning everything, and I think I've come to the thing that I want to have a break for a week or so, and I'm going to have to decide on something because I need to do less things so that I can do more things better, I guess. I think my dream would be to drop everything on the website apart from drawing and focus on making videos, but have them not be these things that require like perfection, I guess. Just if you're doing something and you think that would make a good video, just put the video on and record it and make the video. Just be a bit more relaxed with everything. That's what I need to do. Like I need to be relaxed in my swimming so that I can allow my body to just float across the surface. And I think I need to relax in my life. I need to relax in everything. But it requires a change in everything. So that's basically where I'm at the moment. And it's definitely like that my psychic said in the Reiki Healing when she said things will get worse before they get better. I mean, this past week has probably been the worst mindset week I've had in a very, very long time. But if I can come out of it with balance, that would be good. So I guess the overall message in this podcast is sometimes you need to stop doing everything and like find out what you actually need to be doing. Oh, and something that's really cool is because I haven't got any video games because I got rid of them all, which is another thing I do. I tend to, like I said, all or nothing. I'm either doing something or I'm not. The only thing I've been able to keep doing is actually art and transitioning, so those two must be quite important. But with the video games, I bought myself a DS a couple of weeks ago, and I got it really cheap, and I picked up a copy of Yoshi on the Game Boy Advance, so I've been playing that. And what I did was, I felt inspired to draw a little Sophie hugging Yoshi, so I did a little sketch of that, and like I'd love to turn that into a proper drawing, but like I say, at the moment I'm struggling a bit with motivation to start drawing. But I've got the little sketch, and I know what it looks like in my head, and so I'm going to make that one thing that I do is I'm going to draw a little Sophie hugging Yoshi, because I think that'd be really cool. And it makes me realise that I think there is a way to get video games back into my life and still do the drawing. And that's what I need. I think that's what I want. So it's been a bit of a bonkers week. I definitely want to say thank you to Delia because she has helped me so much, and she's just been giving me so much advice via email, and I just want to say thank you, Delia. just thank you. And I think that is it for this week's podcast. And this week's quote goes to Hajra Usman, and it is a simple little quote. Balance is the key of life. Hajra Usman.